Good morning and welcome to the 9th Annual Monroe County Childhood Conditions Summit. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for being here early. Thank you for snagging breakfast and spending a moment connecting before we get started. My name is Hannah Lenchek, and I'm the Prevention Coordinator at Youth Services Bureau, as well as a member of Building a Thriving, Compassionate Community and a member of the MC3 Planning Team. As we get started this morning, I get the fun piece of acknowledging that our being here in the room together is made possible by so many different individuals and organizations and groups, and I get the fun piece of getting to say thank you to all of them. So first off, many thanks to our co-hosts, Youth Services Bureau and Building a Thriving, Compassionate Community, or as you may know them, YSB and BTCC. We like to lean into the acronyms. Every year, YSB and BTCC partner on the summit, co-building a space where we all get to come together as youth workers, educators, parents, social workers, teens, everyone with a shared stake in childhood conditions throughout Monroe County, and spend the day learning and engaging with one another. I also want to thank our MC3 planning team and the MC3 data team. As you move throughout the day, everything that you will see, all of the small details, the thoughtful pieces, the warm smiles, those are really a direct result of the planning team's hard work. They do so much to make meaningful connections for the summit, to mull over all of the little details from the ooh, should we put this here, or does it make more sense here? They are the folks who make it all happen. So if you see anybody in an orange lanyard today, just give them a quick thank you. I also want to thank our sponsors, the Monroe County Circuit Courts, Monroe County Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative, the Bloomington Health Foundation, the Girl Coalition of Indiana, United Way of South Central Indiana, and Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. Their support makes today possible to host this event free of charge for participants, which is important to us to help maintain the event's accessibility. It is also what makes it possible to have breakfast and 15 cups of coffee throughout the day and lunch. So thank you to our gracious sponsors as well. I also want to give a quick shout out to the Indiana chapter of the National Association of Social Workers, who are supporting us for the second year in a row with making sure that we can offer continuing education credits. So for all of the social workers, counselors, clinical folks in the room looking for CEs, shout out to NASW because they are the folks who made that possible by holding all of the paperwork, requirements, all the things. So. And lastly, I want to say thank you again to all of you. The summit just doesn't exist without you in the room today. As much fun as I think it would be to just get a one-on-one session with each of our presenters, I think they're excited to connect with you all as participants. And I honestly was wowed in putting together this slide for today to see how many programs and organizations are represented throughout the summit all day. So thank you so much for showing up. I know your work schedules and your lives are busy, and I appreciate that you've taken time out of your day to be here and invest in childhood conditions together. At this point, I'd like to introduce a video from a special guest who, alas, could not be with us in person today, but was gracious enough to still send a video, and who is deeply invested in childhood conditions throughout the county. The Honorable Judge Holly Harvey has served on the bench since 2016 and brings a strong perspective of supporting youth and families throughout the county. And that is all I say before I will let her speak for herself.
Good morning. I'm Holly Harvey, Judge of the Monroe Circuit Court 7. I currently preside over the delinquency and chins cases for the Monroe Circuit Court. One of the fun things that I get to do for my job is to welcome you to the Monroe County Childhood Conditions Summit, and I'm so sorry that I'm not there in person to do that for the 2024 summit. If I were there, I would be seeing lots of folks that I recognize and maybe some that I don't. But I also know that every one of you bring to the table an immense amount of knowledge, passion, and expertise at whatever table that you sit to enhance the condition of Monroe County's youth and families. This year's theme is power and possibility, and it struck me that even though the C3 is county childhood conditions, we could also think of those other C's like convene, connect, community. That can be very powerful when individuals such as yourselves come together, share our knowledge, engage with one another in conversations, and share our knowledge that exponentially can improve the conditions of children and families in our community. So I thank you so much for your willingness to step out of your silos or your tables and come together and spend the time today because of your passion for the children and families of our community. And again, I'm very sorry that I can't be there with you today, but I know you'll have a wonderful day, and I look forward to hearing all about it. Thank you.
Thank you again to Judge Harvey. I just want to shout out that it takes a special attention to detail to make a video to submit to something like this, so appreciate that even though she was not able to be with us in person today, she went the extra mile and was like, no, I still want to be represented at the summit and make sure that folks know that the courts support this endeavor. I also want to hold forward that, as Judge Harvey said, our C's in MC3 do stand for childhood conditions, right? And every year at MC3, we get the fun task of digging into conditions in our community. So we look at how Monroe County youth are living, playing, growing, and learning, at how their lives and ours are shaped by housing, healthcare, our workplaces, our organizations, our relationships, everything down to transportation systems. And this year, we have the opportunity to explore those conditions through the lens of power and possibility. In thinking about this year's theme and sitting down to write this piece of the opening remarks, I have to admit I was a little bit daunted. This theme is so near and dear to my heart, and I wanted to spend 4 hours talking about all the things, and then I was like, no, that's what the whole summit day is for. So instead, I kept being pulled back to a piece that I really love from a public health organization called Human Impact Partners. In the piece, Human Impact Partners invite the reader to think about any social system, whether it's a workplace, an after-school program, a school system, even an entire county. And they invite us to think about who has the power to shape these spaces and the conditions within them. After that, they invite us to think about who benefits from these systems and spaces. And on the flip side, who often bears the brunt of its harms or of its failures. As we imagine that, I think it's clear to us that those who shape conditions and make decisions are often fairly far removed from those most deeply impacted from them. In short, power, or the ability to enact change, is not justly shared in our community. I think that MC3's call to change conditions rather than to focus on individualized behaviors can be both so exhilarating and so daunting. It feels really exciting and simultaneously overwhelming, at least to me, to imagine changing healthcare or changing housing. Those are massive systems. Nonetheless, we know that systems like that and public policy are where we need to focus our efforts in order to support kids, families, youth workers, all of us who are in this room together. The piece from Human Impact Partners, I think I kept pulling back to because it offers us a very clear path forward to shaping those conditions and hopefully to feeling less daunted and removing some of the pressure to imagine single-handedly changing our community, or helps us to address some of our risk aversion, some of the ways that we're often averse to rocking the boat or to changing something that we view as just the way that it's always been done. Our role in shaping community conditions is to share power. At the end of the day, power imbalances and structural oppression are the most upstream root causes of the inequities that we want to change when we think about building communities that support youth and families. And because of that, sharing power is also our most impactful site for intervention. Our meaningful work is to ensure that when we make choices about the programs that we run or the policies that our organizations hold, that we involve those who will benefit from or be burdened by those decisions. That when we're tempted to isolate or power hoard or disengage because it's just a little bit too much, that instead we turn to those next to us at tables in rooms like this and we ask, how can we work together to build something? That when we want to connect or confront with those who have power over us, that we're working with others who share our values and our visions for safe, stable, nurturing communities. When we do that, I honestly think that we get to the second part of this year's theme. In Miriam Kaba's words, boundless possibilities for a more just world await us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tara Green.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tara Green. I'm a member of BTCC, and I teach part-time and volunteer in a variety of organizations that support kids, and I see some of these organizations represented here. I look back over the last 9 years of this summit and am reminded that indeed we have power in gathering, in the ideas and in the energy and in the connections that we generate today and throughout the year. We're building and fueling our own collective power to build possibilities for the youth in our community. So that's exciting for me today. If you've been to something with MC3 or BTCC before, we have another acronym for you. Many of you have heard of SSNREs. This phrasing comes from the CDC. They have a framework called the Essentials for Childhood, and they basically boil it down and say kids need safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments. And when we can provide SSNREs, we're increasing the chances for children to have positive childhood experiences. I'm going to say that one again, positive childhood experiences. So many of us in this room have talked about ACEs. We've talked about adverse childhood experiences. Let's talk today about some positive childhood experiences. How can we provide those for our youth? The CDC research, the reason they came to this is because they saw that when children had safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments, they were able to prevent ACEs and other types of harm happening to them. It's a prevention method. So today we're going to look at SSNREs and many of the things that we do and how we can provide that and positive childhood experiences. And one framework we can use to kind of think about where we can have impact is the social ecological model. And this is also in your program. Both of these are. They're around page 3, I think. If you open it up a couple pages, you want to see it yourself or have a copy of it. This model can help us look at the many layers where we have the ability to impact change. Hannah mentioned the individual level. We have the impact one-on-one in ourselves and with other people to have power and possibility. And we know that can make a change. But as we move up the social ecological model, we see that we broaden our impact. So we can also be thinking about where do we have power in our relationships with others, specifically with youth or with other people who work with youth? Where do we have power in our organizations, in our schools, in our nonprofits, in our places of employment, and the conditions of that employment? Where do we have possibility as a community in the physical environment, sidewalks, transportation, in the social environment, and how organizations work together or don't work together? Where's the power in our community? And the last tier is society, the policies, the norms, the narratives that we share about what's possible, who deserves power and possibility. So today we're going to invite you to think about kind of both of those things as you go through the day. SSNREs, how can we create safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments? And where can we do that? Where can we do that along the socio-ecological model in our individual, interpersonal, organizational, community, and societal areas of change? We know that what surrounds us shapes us. We've had that as a theme in the past. Today, we also want you to consider how to use our power, how to think about the possibility to shape what surrounds us. How can we shape what surrounds children? How can we shape the childhood conditions and the community conditions that impact children. So before our sessions begin, we're going to ask that you start to brainstorm some of that and start to bring forth some of the ideas that you already are working on in your work, ideas that you want to know what other people think about. So we're going to spend some time talking until our sessions begin. Or until we break to go to sessions. And we're going to ask that you brainstorm among those at your table. And if you've seen that there are other people who've come in today since you sat down that you've been meaning to work with or you've been meaning to have a time to talk with, this is a time you can shift around and find those people. But today we invite you to think about all of these questions here. Where is your power and possibility as an individual? Where is your power and possibility in the relationships that you have with youth specifically, or with people who impact youth? Where is your power and possibility in the organizations that you're in, or what ideas do you have for power and possibility in other organizations, and how those organizations can connect in community? So where's the power in our community? What's the possibility? And then as a society, where can we impact change? Where's our power? Where's our possibility to create new norms and new narratives about what can support children? So over the next 15 minutes or so, you can write down ideas on your own on sticky notes, and then when you're ready to share them, you can share them amongst your table. Please remember to introduce yourself to each other if you don't already know each other. This is a chance to get to know other organizations and make some connections here today. And then when we're done, you guys are going to head out to your sessions. We'll come along and collect the papers, and we'll put them up all around the room. And then when you come back for lunch or any other time there's a break, if you kind of want to see what other people have been thinking about, see if there are other people who have similar ideas to you, see if there are things that you hadn't even thought about, you'll be able to see those. And we'll leave some sticky notes out because you might have more ideas as the day goes on that you want to add to it. So I'm going to leave you to talk amongst your tables. I'll be back when we have like 3 minutes, just so you know you can wrap up. And I invite you to think about power and possibility.
All right, y'all. In true summit fashion, I'm going to call you back one last time. And before we part ways for the first session in a few minutes, I get the other fun piece of the opening, which is housekeeping. So thank you for taking the time to brainstorm together. I know I cannot wait to look through any Post-it notes or big stickies later. The nerd in me is like, ooh, what'd you guys write? But I'm going to hold off for a minute. That way I can get you all of the information about the rest of the day. Please bear with me through all these details. So, first of all, full session details can be found in your program, along with information about all of our wonderful presenters for the day, where everything will be at within the convention center. There should be a map, information about which sessions are for CEUs, all the things. If, however, you are not a I want to read it in the program person and you would rather ask a person, if you find anybody with an orange lanyard throughout the day, that's a volunteer or a planning team member, and they can answer any of your questions, or if they can't, they can find you somebody else with an orange lanyard who can. While we're speaking about the program, I do want to say we have one typo this year. Please hold your boos, but we do have a quick error. In the later pages of the program with session descriptions, the session on the state of K-12 funding is listed as being in the great room. It is not in the great room, it is in the Duke room. So if you are planning to attend that session, maybe just make a quick note in your program, and we'll do a reminder when those sessions begin. That is in the afternoon portion of the day. So if you wander into the great room looking for the K-12 funding session, we will do a reminder that that is actually next door in Duke West. Speaking of later in the day, for those of y'all already dreaming about lunch, I see you. You are my sort of person. Yes. Lunch is color-coded onto your name tag, just in case you cannot remember what you ordered 2 months ago. And I also want to give folks a heads up that we don't have formal programming in the great room during lunch this year, to just give you a chance to take a breather, connect with folks, also so that you can head downstairs and look at the data walk if you want, or so that if you are planning to join the Black, Indigenous, or Person of Color affinity group in Duke West, that you get a chance to do that. The affinity group during lunch won't start until 12:30, so you should have a chance to still come in, snag your lunch, and then head to Duke West. I'm excited to announce that we are offering up to 5 continuing education credits this year. Just make sure that you turn in your CE tracking form at the end of the day if you want to receive credit for continuing education credits. You leave the pink sheet for us, take the yellow sheet for you. That way you've got a record and we've got a record. Restrooms are available upstairs and downstairs. The upstairs restrooms are just down this hallway, straight past Duke West and Duke East, and the restrooms downstairs are to the right of the lobby as you exit the escalator. If you need the Wi-Fi information throughout the day, the Convention Center graciously offers free Wi-Fi on the network MCCC Guest. And between sessions today, we'll have a mix of 10 to 15-minute breaks. That way you can take a breather, use the restrooms, grab a cup of coffee, finish a conversation with somebody, anything that you need without hopefully having to feel rushed to move through the day and sort of leave connections in an awkward space. At the same time, I do want to acknowledge we are having breakout sessions here in the Great Room today, which is very exciting. Part of that is so that we can have recordings provided by CATS, and part of which is so that we can offer Spanish captioning on some of the sessions today. Because we will have breakout sessions in this room, I would just ask folks to please be mindful of your tables and also be mindful of sound out by the beverage station. If you are like me and you're grabbing coffee and you're like, oh my God, I want to chat with you for 5 minutes, I respect that. And I would also ask either keep the volume down, or if you need to have a full conversation, the lobby is open all day, and there's lots of comfy seating in there that you can use to chat with other folks. Speaking of rooms, we made the call this year to have breakout sessions on 2 floors. That is on purpose because we know from past summits that sometimes sessions get a little bit raucous when folks are in breakout groups. And last year we ran into some nosebleed between rooms. So to try to account for that, we've got sessions in the Great Room in here, in Duke West next door, and then downstairs in Cook East and in Hanson. This is a new thing we're trying out this year, so we ask for some patience if there are any traffic jams as folks move up and down the stairs and the escalator and the elevator for sessions today. Just bear with us, we're trying it out. And lastly, speaking of trying new things, we have 2 other program items this year that are new adventures. First, we are offering affinity groups throughout the day. We had our policy and advocacy affinity group this morning. Our BIPOC affinity group will meet during lunch. And our last affinity group of the day will be after closing sessions, and we'll focus on those who support parents. Affinity groups, for those who are not familiar, are spaces meant for connection and building relationships, whether based on experience, identity, type of work, some kind of shared interest. So we invite you to attend one today if it feels like a good fit, and if not, no worries, they don't overlap with any other sessions. Lastly, rather than coming all back together into the Great Room for one final closing session today, we're gonna have a sort of choose your own adventure for the end of the day. For folks who want to prioritize relationship building and connection building, we'll have a networking session. For those who are gung-ho about shared action and building strategies together, we will have a co-strategizing session. And for those who are here and just want to learn all day up until the very last minute, we will have one last learning breakout session here in the Great Room. Please feel free to choose whatever works best for you. And we hope that also, if you'd like to, you'll join us for the Supporting Parents Affinity Group after the closing sessions for the day. Okay. Lots of info. Thank you so much for sticking with me through all the details, and I want to reiterate that all of this should be in the program, so if you're like, that was a lot of things, don't worry, you don't have to memorize it all, you've got it written down somewhere. And with that, I will say thank you and welcome one last time, and invite you to head to your first session of the day, which will begin at 9:30. Thank you so much.